So if you want to throw up that first slide, go for it.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Great.
There we go. All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to do this. I absolutely know that your time is valuable. We all have too much to do, so thank you. And I really want to say thank you to the entire district. Governor line is here, and a surprise visit from our immediate past district governor, Sherry Messinger. Sean
Sherry, George Condick, how are you? I had to get that in there.
Sean Sawyer, our current district governor, is at the controls. There is nobody that knows Zoom better than Sean. And so he's operating this. And Sean, you might want to mute everybody. I'm getting a lot. There we go. I also want to say thank you. David Cooper, our district governor-elect, is on the call, as well as our district governor nominee, Dan McCarthy. So if you could hit that second slide. I stole this, and it came at an opportune time. I was at a Rotary Club, a Bridgeport Rotary meeting a couple of weeks ago. They have a very, very dynamic president, Brad Ford. Brad closed with this quote, and I just started writing it down as fast as I could because it is absolutely the essence of what we're going to talk about today. If you could bring it back to me, Sean. I want to stress that what I want you to leave here with today is basically a guide path for how to get to a good plan for your club. I'm going to share plans from 4 clubs that are making good membership gains. Now, I think most of you have heard me say that I am not a membership chair who stresses numbers all the time, and I'm not. But when I see good membership gains from July 1st of this year to now, I want to know what's happening with that club. And so I called 4 clubs that showed significant gains, and we're going to talk about all 4. I called them blindly for a reason. I didn't want a song and dance. I wanted to know right off the cuff, what are you doing? Was this an accident? Well, it wasn't. All 4 clubs knew exactly what they were doing. They had a plan. They were working that plan. So the first one, if you could put that slide up, slide 3. The first one is Buckhannon Upshur Rotary. And I called Julie. Julie is on the call with us today. And I'm hoping at the end when we have a discussion that she and others from these clubs will weigh in and tell you more. When I asked Julie, what are you doing? They're up 5 members since July 1st. She said, we decided that we wanted positive visibility in our community. We want to demonstrate our model of service above self. We want to be more outwardly than inwardly focused. And, very important, we have a great PR person. Buckhannon is active in the community. They are intentional in what they're doing. All of the to talk about have become attractants. Yes, they're going out and actively looking for new members, but they're also starting to get potential new members coming to them. And that's important. We all want to be in that position. So if you could go to the next slide, Sean. Robert Welty, president of Charleston Rotary. Now, if you look at the bottom, they're only up 3 since July 1, or you might say only. I don't say that, and here's why. Charleston Rotary is a very large club. Large clubs have issues, especially during this COVID-19 era, retaining people. They've got so many people. It's a fact in any large club who are more fringe. They don't see them very often. Robert Welty called me a few months ago about something, and he told me the same thing that he told me when I called him last week. We're putting an emphasis on diversity, and it started at the board level. It has a board buy-in. They're recruiting individuals of color, women, and people from all facets of the community. They make it known that they're a welcoming club. Again, publicity, getting themselves out there in a way that puts the club in a very positive light. Okay, the next one, Sean. This is a very interesting one, and I hope Krista is on the call. She was registered. I'm not sure I saw her name, but hopefully she'll get on here.
He's here.
Okay, wonderful. Krista is the membership chair of Weston Rotary. I think we may want to tap into her for a presentation and a training, and here's why. I thought about our conversation after we hung up, and I realized some things. Krista is the director of a volunteer organization that supplies volunteers to Sharp Hospital. The more I thought about it, the harder job I kind of figured it was. That can't be easy. I am going to guess that Krista has some very good training in how to manage and motivate and direct volunteers. She came into Rotary in Weston in 2017, and she told me that she spent about a year just observing, watching what members were doing, who did what job. And she said, you know, my observation was it was longtime Rotarians who were doing the bulk of the work. They were doing it over and over again, and they were getting tired. So then she started having face-to-face conversations with people. And yes, they were getting tired. And you know, I thought about that too. Nutritionists will tell you that we often mistake thirst for hunger. We eat when we should drink. And of course, sometimes those are bad consequences. I often think that we mistake boredom for tiredness. When we're not bored, we tend to get energized. So that's just an aside, but yeah, you do start to run down. We have all, anybody who's been in Rotary for a while, we've had that happen. Krista said, we talk about membership at every meeting. We look for people who will participate, and they're a very active club in their community. We've increased our social media. That club is up 8 members since July. They started at 26, they're at 34. That's an amazing increase. Now, I'm also hoping Tina Marie Cunningham is on the call. She was registered. She is their incoming president. And Krista lays a lot of the recognition for the increase in social media at Tina's feet because she said she's really good at it. It's an important element when we want our club to go forward. Next slide, Sean. All right. Brad Ford, president of Bridgeport Rotary. Brad is a very, very dynamic guy. I went to a meeting about 2 weeks ago where David Cooper was there to bring in 3 new members. And there was something very interesting about those 3 new members, which I'll tell you in a minute. Brad said, I will be president on one condition. We're going to make some big changes. And they said, okay, and he did. He instituted an MVP meeting structure. M is for meeting, meaning that once a month they meet in person. V is for virtual. Once a month they have a virtual meeting. P is for project. Once a month they will do a project. Now they have another difference in that Brad says they are going primarily for business people. And what he's saying to them is, look, just being in Rotary, we all know Rotary started as a business networking club. And most of our clubs have gotten away from that to a large degree. It is still a good model for a club. So if you come into Bridgeport Rotary, Brad is telling them not only will you have exposure to our members, and oftentimes Rotary members beyond that, but you will have exposure at all of these projects we're doing. There's nothing stopping you from walking up to somebody, Brad does, and says, hi, I'm Brad Ford with Ford Funeral Home. They're looking at it as a business opportunity. At the same time, they have stepped up their projects. And in Brad's words, we have lots of publicity. They're up 8 members since July 1. I know they have more in the pipeline. I sat and talked with one at that meeting. He's still going through the process. I think Brad has told me they have 3 or 4 more in the pipeline. So Bridgeport has made some major changes, but the 3 members that Coop brought in a couple of weeks ago, 2 of them were former Bridgeport Rotary members. The other one was a recent member in a Virginia club. He moved to Bridgeport and transferred his membership. But this brings up a very important opportunity. Brad said they revisited their terminated members for a couple of reasons. One is people's lives change. We've all lost members because they got so busy, often with children, that they just didn't have time. Your life changes over time. The other thing that has changed radically is Bridgeport Rotary. The club that these 2 men came back into is not the club they left by any means. So I would encourage everybody to revisit that terminated list. You can pull it up in DACDB. It's right there next to your active members. And we have something very interesting that those members can be tapped into for that we'll talk about in the second training session. Could you go to the next slide, Sean? All right. What do all these clubs share? Well, first of all, they have a plan. They have a direction, and they're working it. They're visible in the community through their projects. They've stepped up their publicity, and very importantly, they are open to change. If you could come back to me at this point. You know, one thing we need to realize, and it's been going on now for a couple of years, Rotary is in a period of very rapid change, and it's not over. There are many things afoot that are going to change how we do Rotary. So if we look at the next part of this presentation, it's the hard part. Those 4 plans that I showed you, what those 4 clubs are doing, are pretty simple. The plan isn't difficult. Getting your club to A, devise a plan, or B, buy into the plan that you devise for them, hopefully with a team of people. Getting them to come on board and execute, that's the hard part. We've all been to trainings and seminars where we got great ideas and we went back and we laid it out in front of the club and everybody just looked at us and all our energy and enthusiasm just drained away. It's happened to most of us. So there are some steps, and I think this is the most important part. We don't want to devise a plan for you. All 4 of those clubs looked both at their club and at their community and figured out what would be best. You need to do that too. But we do want to help you if you're in a club that is hard to move down this course. So if you could go to the next slide, Sean. Your club does have a culture. Every club has a culture. Some of them are deeply, deeply embedded. Cultures tend to embrace the status quo. They're resistant to change. Rotary is changing very, very quickly. We are going to get into that more in the second presentation. We will get into some of it now. We have to be ready for that change, or we're going to get left behind. So what do you do if you have a club that is just hard to move along? When I talk to clubs, and I'm trying to talk to more and more, the number one word that I hear about their own club, if they're not moving forward, is frustration. People are frustrated. So next slide, please. You become a change agent. And we have a handy dandy, about a 6-page recipe for doing that. Recipe for changing club culture. I am going to send everybody who was on this call a copy of that tomorrow. It is from Zone 3334. It's a guide and worksheet. We'll talk about it a little bit. Once you have it in your hands, I think it will make a whole lot more sense, and it will fill in some of the missing blanks that I'm not going to go over because it's pretty in-depth. But let's talk about some of the elements that you're going to need, and you can come back to me, Sean. You will need a team. Now, hopefully, as in the case of Charleston Rotary, and maybe some of the others that I talked about, hopefully that team will be your board. But we all know that some boards are resistant to change. Let's just say you have to build a team. You have to have allies. You can't go it alone. And you have to do it in steps. When you get this guide, you'll see that they talk about changing strategies, employing new strategies, getting short-term wins. You can't worry. If you're at point A and you want to be down at Z, you're not going to jump all the way there. Be patient. There's some time. We're doing just fine as a district, but we need to move clubs forward that are having issues. So look at some strategies. Sit down with your team. Figure out some small things you can do. Hopefully that will involve reaching out and saying to some of your members who might be resistant, hey, would you mind doing this? Here's what we would like to accomplish. Once you start getting small wins, you start changing behaviors. It's a process. Once you start changing behaviors, you start changing culture. Won't happen overnight. Brad Ford may have done it overnight at Bridgeport. He is a very, very dynamic person. Most of us can't do that. So have a little patience, get your team together, get a plan together, try to get as much club buy-in as you possibly can, and then start going forward, getting those wins. You're going to need a vision. This document will take you through it step by step. Now, there's another resource you have that does not get used nearly enough, and that is your district team. And I'm going to tell you that COVID-19 has handed us a huge change in the amount of training, the amount of support, the amount of resources that we have as a district team. Here's why, and you need to use us more and more. As district membership chair, I have been through the zone training. Now, there are probably some people on the call who don't know what zone is. You have RI at the top, and then you come down to zone. They're kind of invisible. They are a support organization. Then you have the districts, and then of course the clubs. I wasn't really aware of zone until 2 years ago, a little over, when I became district membership chair. I had heard of them. I didn't know what they did. They train, they support, and they do it incredibly well. So 2 years ago, I went to zone training in Greensboro, and it was a day and a half. And it was, information just hitting you right and left, packed, and you didn't retain terribly much of it. This year, Zone couldn't do that. So what they did was 7 weeks in a row of 1-hour trainings. At the end of those 7 weeks, almost everybody on that Zone training for membership, and they did it for every subgroup, said this is far better. Now, here is what has continued via Zoom, because we can do it. Once a month, I have a membership training on Zoom, and it is often not so much a training as an information exchange. There are 17 districts from about Central PA down, I believe, through the Carolinas on our in our zone. They're all on that call. We share information. We get amazing ideas. It is far more vibrant, far more input than I have ever had as a district leader. And I think my other district cohorts would agree with that. Now, once a month, I am on an innovative clubs call. We now have, as of I believe May, it got started, an innovative clubs committee. That's what the second training is on. And you might think, well, how does that impact me? It can have big impacts on you. There are so many things we can do now to affiliate clubs together, to energize each other, to spin off new clubs. And I'm going to go over in this session one thing you can do that is not a spin-off. It's an integral part of your club that can help tremendously, but it's under the Innovative Clubs concept. So what I'm telling you is your district team has so much more information. We have so many more resources at our fingertips. You need to use us. I have found occasionally in talking to somebody in a club who had a problem, whatever it was, they already had the solution. They already knew where they were headed. They were just kind of mentally stuck because we need to communicate with each other. We need to support each other. Sometimes we just need a little bit of cheerleading to help us along because we're all volunteers. So reach out, use your district. We are there to help, and we will help. Here's something I am finding, though, as two things. As I talk to clubs in the district, and I haven't talked to nearly all of them, there is a lot going on. In recent calls, I discovered we have 2 clubs that I think one meeting in the morning, one at noon, traditionally, and they have both taken one meeting a month and put it in the evening to increase the flexibility. As a district, most of our clubs have gone back to some semblance of an in-person meeting, but they are now hybrids. They have incorporated an online element. That gives us tremendous flexibility to do a variety of things. There are people who may not be able to run out to lunch from their workplace every week or other week or whatever you're doing, but could join you via Zoom. They just, their lunch hour is an hour and that's it. I know Grafton had a member who had moved to Florida rejoin because Grafton is meeting in person, but they have a Zoom element, an online platform, and they intend to keep that. And he has rejoined. There are just so many things that we can do with this online platform, even when we're back totally to normal. So keep that in mind in your planning and as you go forward. Can you go to the next slide? One more. Okay. This alternate time groups, and I have to be careful not to say an alternate time club. It's easy to say that. Alternate time groups are under the Innovative Clubs Committee. We have a committee of 6, and we're working on a lot of different things. But this is the only one I'll really talk about today. An alternate time group is a group of people who cannot make your meeting at its normal time, but who want to be part of your club. And they can make the meeting if it's at another time, typically in the evening. They are members of your club. This is not a satellite. Now, if they reach 20 members, you have to have 20 members to launch a satellite, and everybody was in agreement that that's what they wanted to do. It could launch, but that's not the original intent, and that's not really where I would go with it. They have a chair. That chair should be a member of your board. It is suggested that they have some autonomy in determining when, where, and how often they meet. They're typically, well, obviously going to be at a different time. It is not a club in its own right, but it can operate with a good degree of autonomy. Grafton launched a very successful one last September. And I think both Greg Cartwright and Sam McDaniel and maybe Ed Westfall are on here. They were the 3 guys who really did it. And they can talk a little more about this if you have questions. Princeton has one, and theirs is a little different model. Now, I'm going to pull in a little bit, just to get you thinking, a little bit of the second session under the Innovative Clubs. You could do an alternate time group that is focused on a cause, something in your community that needs done. You've got people who are passionate about that. It can still be a subset of your club, but have a focus. It doesn't have to have a focus. They can do, I think Grafton's group sometimes joins them for projects and sometimes does their own projects. There should be a good bit of back and forth between those 2 clubs. They probably can't come to your meeting whenever it is, because that's why they didn't join the main club, but people from your club can visit them. So a lot of interesting things can happen with an alternate time club. It can expand your horizons. We're going to show you a video at this point. Are you about ready with that, Sean? This is designed to launch new clubs, but what they are telling you is still very much in line with putting together an alternate time club. So it's short, about 3 minutes. Sean, we don't seem to have audio. These are always tricky.
Hey, Sean. Over in the left-hand corner of your share screen, there's a box to share audio.
As Rotary, we often ask ourselves, how do we grow, personally, professionally, and organizationally? The answer is simple. To grow Rotary, we need more Rotary clubs. Let's use Anytown as an example. Anytown is a city of 100,000 people and home to one proud Rotary club. But there are hundreds of other people of action, just like us, who are uniquely qualified to become Rotary members. They share the same drive and represent the values and fundamentals of a Rotary member. So why aren't they members? Well, the current club meets on Monday. There are leaders in any town who can't meet on a Monday. By excluding this segment, the potential members in any town has shrunk. Now consider, what if the meeting is at noon on Monday? There are people who can meet on Monday, but can't meet at noon. So now we have a smaller audience for Rotary in any town. Of the remaining group, some aren't interested in a club with a sit-down lunch and speakers. They are passionate about service, but aren't interested in a traditional club experience. And that is okay. The Rotary Club of any town isn't doing anything wrong. It just doesn't appeal to particular segments of the community. And if we're going to thrive for years to come, we must adapt and embrace change. In any town, we have an opportunity to expand because potential members are everywhere. More than half of the eligible people are prospective Rotary members, waiting to make a bigger impact in their community. But what Rotary Club exists for them? If any town creates new clubs at new times and new places, the hidden potential for Rotary will be revealed. As people of action, we must broaden our reach and provide opportunities to all leaders in the community. Together, all of us can grow Rotary.
Thank you, Sean. Now, obviously, that was geared to new clubs. And you know, she started out with a city that had 100,000. Most of us don't have that. But there are people in every community who could be Rotarians given a different time, a different day, a different club makeup, and that's really important. I will tell you this, we are in the process in Monongalia County of establishing our 5th Rotary Club. We have 4. Monongalia County is wide, east to west, we're a big county. Out in the western end of the county, we have Blacksville with Clay Battelle. Their 100 is a little, well, it's way out. And there are little communities out there with a high school, a junior high, and an elementary school. Morgantown Rotary has worked out there for years through the high school. I'm in Morgantown North. Andrew Price is on this call. He's our incoming president at Morgantown North. And he said to me one day, I think we could establish a Rotary Club in the western end of the county. And we talked about that. And yes, we can, but it will be a satellite club. We're establishing it not as an alternate time, but potentially as a satellite. Remember, satellites, if they don't want to, never have to launch anymore. They can stay under the mother club. That club belongs with Morgantown. They're already very active out there. We already have a lot of interest. That will be 5 clubs in a county of, I haven't looked lately, but something like 85,000 people. So there is room. It will not take away from your club if we expand and get people who simply need a different dynamic, whether it's a different day, a different time, or a different kind of club. We have an awful lot of people who are missing the chance to be a Rotarian. So if you could hit the next slide there, Sean, and the last one. The next training is new formats, new ideas, new perspectives. No matter what position you're in, you can take advantage of this. There is a lot going on. I think you would be amazed at what doors have opened to us. It's very apropos, the graphic that is on the screen now. We have opportunities, and we can reach out, reach new people, establish new clubs, expand our clubs, and really grow Rotary. The sky is the limit, and I will tell you that Rotary International and the Zone, they're just simply blazing new trails. They're way ahead of us, and we really have to run to keep up some days, but it's exciting. I've been in Rotary 24 years. I'm more excited now than I have ever been. So with that, I want to open it up to discussion. And I really would like to start by asking one of the people from Weston, whether it's Krista or Tina, or Julie Keener from Buckhannon, to talk a little bit about how they moved the club along to get to where they are now.
Make sure to unmute yourself as well before you start talking.
I know you're there.
Well, I'm happy to go first. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We, as you know, have established a new club, and our main, our main objectives were really to build our club and to look at how we could heal our image in the community and also throughout the county, because it's Buchanan Upshur now. It used to be the Rotary Club of Buchanan, and so we were very intentional about reaching out to individuals we thought would enhance our club from throughout the county. Not that we had ever denied anybody who wasn't from Buchanan City and the proper, but we really made an intentional effort to expand throughout the county, and I think that helped. But mostly, our new members said that they were attracted to become part of our club because of what we were doing. And some of them are younger members, which is really important. And I think that if we look at what is called the millennials or Gen X, I used to work in higher ed, that they want to do. They want to be part of a club that does. They aren't into a lot of meetings, although they'll come to them. But what they really want to be part of is making a difference in the community, and that's what makes a difference to them. And so we intentionally looked at that population, and we've been pretty successful with that. In fact, we have 3 new potential members who have applied, who are all under the age of 30. And we
Wow.
might need to do a satellite club for them, or a club that will be part of our club but meeting at a different time. So we're looking at all of that. But I think that we have a membership committee that is looking at doing things differently and meeting the needs of different kinds of members. So that's where our success is. And as I said, as you had on the slide, we have a PR person who is excellent. And we probably have 1 or 2 press releases going out every week to let people know what we're doing, and that has been very, very helpful. We also have great social media, which I attribute to one of our members who has great expertise in that area. And so I think all those pieces come together that have helped us rebuild.
Wonderful. And I will say that the Innovative Clubs Committee is looking for a minimum of 4 new alternate time group startups this year. And I know we have at least 4 clubs looking very seriously at that. But any club can do it. We will take far more than 4.
We
Krista?
appreciate that.
Krista, if you're listening, I would love to hear from you. I think you have a perspective on building membership and working with volunteers that a lot of us would love to have.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm no expert by any means, but what area would you like me to speak on?
Well, just how you went in. You were a relatively new member in a longstanding club. To get people moving in the same direction is not easy, but you did that, and you did it with great patience, was my observation. A lot of what I said about you isn't what you said, it's what I heard, I think, between the lines.
Well, I think just based on my experiences with other organizations, change is never an easy thing, especially when when you're talking about a culture change, the minimum on that, you're probably looking at a 5-year timeline at best. So like you said, you can't change it overnight. So I think the observation period is important, but more so, you also need to learn your people. You need to learn about them, what motivates them, what their passions are. Because I think if you can harness that, the work, you don't have to work so hard at things. They want to do more. They want to be engaged. So it's really just, it's not organization management, it's people management. It's learning the players, learning what their interests are, and then building your programs around that.
Okay. Yes, it makes total sense. And sometimes we do things, we want to accomplish something quickly, and
Yeah.
it's just not always possible.
Right. And I've also learned too, I had a really great mentor at one point. Public speaking, I was never really great at public speaking. Still am not. I still learn every day, but I'll never forget the lesson he taught me. We were scheduled to speak at a large event, and I was really nervous. And I asked him, I said, how do you capture an audience the way that you do? Because this man was a very dynamic speaker. And he told me something that I will never forget. He said, it's all about making people relatable to one another. You get up there and you tell a story, and part of that story is going to touch those people in a way that just giving information never will. So I try to incorporate that, especially when I'm talking to people about membership and what Rotary is. I try to make sure that they, hear some sort of story and how their abilities, times, and talents, how that can benefit Rotary as well as their community.
That's interesting. I've studied storytelling from a marketing perspective, and you don't think about the fact that stories are one of the most basic ways we learn. And as children, it's the first way we learn, but it's also one of the most long-lasting and impactful ways that we learn. You don't grow out of it just because you're not a kid anymore. So, good advice.
Could I ask Krista a question, Rebecca?
Sure.
Yeah, Krista, both you and Tina Marie are relatively new members, yet the two of you, my observation being your AG, are the ones that really began to change the culture of the Western Club and began the transformation process. How did you manage that, being new members and knowing that clubs sometimes are set in their ways with those who have been Rotarians for decades?
Well, I was in the club a little longer than what Tina has been, and during my observation period, I tried to identify some people in the community that I saw doing things independently, service projects independently. And Tina was definitely one of those people. She had developed several things that she was doing with her business that are wonderful outreach projects. So I had talked to the club about having her as a guest speaker, talked to them about the projects that she had already established with her business, and we brought her in as a guest speaker. And she's got a wonderful personality. It really became easy at that point. She was approached about membership, and things just kind of snowballed with that. And like we talked about before, the club itself was made up of a lot of longtime Rotarians, and they had been doing some of the same work over and over for years. And it's not that they didn't like doing those roles or those functions, they were just kind of burnt out on it. So they welcomed the help. honestly, and it's just kind of grown. Everybody has, I think there's a level of excitement in the club, and as we acquire new members, it just keeps unfolding. New ideas come in, and here we are.
Okay, is there anybody else with questions or any club, anyone from a club who's having issues and you want to lay an issue out for discussion?
Hey, Rebecca, I just want to ask Julie if she could give us some more, just more details about the things they're doing that make them attractive to all the new members they've been getting.
That was for Julie?
Yeah, for Julie.
Okay.
Julie, if you
I'm
could.
unmuting myself. Sorry about that. Well, we have, as you know, we have a local college here in Buchanan, West Virginia Wesleyan, and they went completely virtual this fall. And they have a program called Service Scholars, which means that each service scholar contributes 10 hours a week to nonprofits in the community. And when they decided to make it virtual, we had for our clothes closet and our food pantry, there were about 60 hours per week of volunteerism that they did not have in the fall. And so we decided that we could at least make up some of that. And so we have been going into that organization and helping to put out, for example, one of our major projects, which got a lot of press, was that we went in and helped them move from summer and spring clothes to fall clothes. And there are a lot of people, of course, more so now than ever, that utilize that. And so that got us great press. And we do our blood screenings where we would serve about 1,500 people every fall and spring, and help people who were uninsured or even had insurance, but it cost them a great deal to do blood screenings. And we couldn't do the large groups anymore. And so we went to several weekends where just 3 of us would work. It used to be 20 people hands on deck. And so it was a lot less, but we were able then to meet that need. And so we did 6 blood screenings in the fall. Our next one is October 31st, and that'll be our last one. But those are they have become, we've been doing it for about 20 plus years. And so those are really critical. And the fact that we could make them work in a different way, we got 2 new members from that. They said, we went to that and we thought, if they are that nimble and flexible, I want to be part of that. And they knew how much it meant to their family to be able to tap into those services. The other piece is that we have been involved in food drives. At the beginning of the year, we were involved in a packing of backpacks for school children. We did 800 backpacks and contributed probably half of the supplies needed through our Rotary Club, and then other organizations did as well. And so we got a lot of publicity from that because there were holds. Because a lot of older folks who typically volunteer in those organizations weren't able to do so anymore. And so that's what we really looked for, is where is the need and where can we fill, and how can we fill that need? And so a lot of our older members didn't feel comfortable participating, but many of our members did, and they brought their children who weren't in school yet, those kinds of things. So it became a family event. So it was just really looking at where the need was and where we might fill that gap. I hope that helps.
Great. Yes. Yes, very
Yes,
much.
thanks, Julie, very much. And that's the key to a lot of growth in Rotary, is just find the pressing needs in your community, figure out how to solve them or work towards solving them, and you'll attract the people who have the same passion as you do to get it done.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. It's worked well for us. And it's another piece I will say, and Sean was at our meeting when we were talking about this, is that virtually, of course, but the camaraderie that comes from that, we have all missed that. We're meeting virtually twice a month. And so the service projects fill that gap for us as Rotarians. And that has been really important, that we have gotten lots of folks volunteering for that, because it does meet that camaraderie and collegiality need that all of us
Mhm.
really do have through and was met through Rotary.
You know, Julie, I eliminated a slide in this presentation because I just thought it was too much. But it was about why we really join groups. We all know that if somebody asks us why we joined Rotary, we are going to say to give back to my community or to be involved in projects. And we're not lying, that's true. But research shows at a much deeper level, we join groups because we need that affinity with a group. It helps our self-esteem, it helps our status, it helps us feel connected. All that is incredibly important. And it's not something that we always consciously recognize, but those are strong, strong motivations. And right now, with so many people being so isolated, I think we have an opportunity to reach out and pull some people in who simply want to be part of a group. And will they not be good members because of that, not do projects? No. I just think the need is there, and we really have some opportunity in this situation.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the silver lining
Yes.
during this time, is that we can reach out to people who might not have otherwise thought of Rotary, that they were too busy or didn't think they could make the meetings. And now we're making them more accessible, and we do meet a need that perhaps isn't being met in other ways.
Yes, yes.
You know, Becky, I did actually join. I didn't feel like I had enough time in my life to do anything but some service projects and help our community. But what I really found out is the friendships that I made in Rotary has made the biggest difference in me, and to know that I can depend on the friendships that I have made.
Yes.
But I really did join just to do that work, and because I felt I had no time for anything else. But I'm so grateful that I made the friendships and have the friendships.
Yes, yes, it's a big part of what keeps people in, especially when they go through periods of their life where they have no time, and we all hit those occasionally.
So I just want to add really quickly from a volunteer coordinator standpoint, volunteerism has changed a lot. It used to be that you had dedicated volunteers that would, you know, maybe their retirement age, and they would volunteer 8 hours a day at a facility. It's not that way anymore. People, what we're seeing, they want short-term service projects that they can focus on, and it's not this huge time commitment. So I think it's interesting that, you know, she brought up that she wanted a service project and she didn't have any time. So we hear that a lot. So I think as you guys are building programs, I know here in Weston, we're taking a look at shorter term projects that have high impact, high visibility.
You know, that makes sense. And Krista, I think you're in a perfect position to throw out some gems there that we can distribute from time to time, because volunteerism is your job. You see it from a much broader angle than we do. And that's important. So.
Becky, can I throw something in there as well?
Yes. Yes.
I have now had the absolute pleasure to visit with 40 of our clubs as of this morning. And I think I have visited, with the exception of maybe a couple, with the clubs that everybody on this call belongs to. And with all due respect to our visiting friend from North Carolina there in the center, I am so proud of the people in West Virginia that have not allowed this pandemic to chop off their resiliency at the knees.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the clubs are different. I was with Charleston this morning, 218 people. I was with Newburgh a month ago. They have 12. But you know what? They're doing it. They're finding ways to get things done. And that is certainly, no matter what size your club is, I have seen firsthand the groups of people that just say, you know what? Don't tell me I can't do it. We're going to find a way to get it done. Like Krista was talking about, with their and Julie as well, with those multiphasic blood screenings.
Mhm.
You know, you used to invite everybody in and they all sat around a table and you flopped your arm over on a table and they drew your blood, and some smiling Rotarian handed you a bottle of orange juice and a banana or something so you didn't pass out and somebody file a liability claim. And with COVID, you know, that became a very uncomfortable process and probably not one to be recommended in a lot of ways. But I went to Weston and watched them do the drive-through version of a multiphasic blood draw. And it was like going to the Disney park. You rolled up to the first gate and they took your information. You rolled up to the next gate, they checked you off. You rolled up to the tents where the hospital personnel were there doing the actual draws. You rolled down the window of your car, you stuck your arm out, they did it, they emailed you the results. I think one thing that both of those ladies failed to mention is that they've had better attendance doing it this way than some of the instances when they were doing it the former way. So everybody has heard me dolt on and on and on, and I don't mean to take up too much time, but one of the favorite parts about being governor, at least for me this year, has just been to be able to stand back and watch everybody just do it, especially at a time when, you know, circumstances don't really lend to that. And they're just finding a way to do it. And I'm proud to be the governor, and I'm even more proud to be involved in a group full of people that comprise this district that aren't going to be told no. I mean, it's a very good feeling, and I'm proud of everybody in it. Absolutely.
And Sean, introduce your friend from North Carolina, because I didn't do that.
I actually did a little bit ago, kind of in
I don't think everybody was on yet.
my own special way. With us tonight, you've all heard of the Flamingos. That is the affectionate name for our classmates of district governors in all 31 districts in the zone pair, 33, 34, which, as you mentioned, together go not only from southwestern Pennsylvania down into the Carolinas, but also down into Georgia, Florida, and the Caribbean as well. Mike Walker is the current district governor, and I don't know his district number because that's just not how we categorize people, but he lives just right there in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he has got a district that's absolutely thriving as well. And I appreciate him, you know, being on the call tonight and coming to share either steal knowledge. I'm not sure what he's doing exactly. I'll ask him later, or whether maybe he'll let me embarrass him a little bit and give him a chance to speak up and maybe give us some comparable discussion or maybe some contrasting discussion. Mike, you have anything you want to throw in? You made it all the way from North Carolina to be with us tonight. I feel like I have to ask you to speak a little bit.
It's a long drive. I got a long drive back, Sean. So there is that. So Sean is definitely one of the leaders of our 31 Flamingos, and I appreciate all that he's done for our little group. We're pretty well known in the world of Rotary just because we've been obnoxious to the whole flamingo thing, as you can see behind me. And it seems to be working because people do know who we are. So I've been to about 35 club visits so far out of 57, and almost all virtual. And everybody, I tell people several things that come through is Rotarians view this as a blip on the radar. It's just what it is, but it's not a reason to quit Rotary. And I've seen that over and over again. I visited about a dozen clubs virtually before my year started, just to not be a stranger for the club visit. And over again, people are finding ways to get service projects done. People are finding ways to still have successful fundraisers. My club just had a golf tournament a week ago, and it was literally our most successful golf tournament we've had in years. And it all comes from people being creative. And, you know, one thing that I've noticed, and maybe, you know, we all know non-Rotarians, it just seems like Rotarians have a certain get it done attitude, one way or the other. Maybe that's just part of the basic Rotary culture. And I think that Rotary culture is more pronounced in a crisis than it is in normal circumstances. So I think we've got a lot to be proud of. And that is pretty much, I think we're part of a bigger culture like that. I think we're very lucky to be a part of that.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes. Well, Sean, I think we need to wrap it up. I'm going to tell you once more, I will send you tomorrow morning recipe for changing club culture, and it's a good guide. Use it. The other thing I'm going to tell you is if you have problems and issues, pick up the phone and call me. We have so much to offer now that we didn't before. If you just need a shoulder to lean on, sometimes that is all you need, but that's important. So I'm here. I can be found on DACDB easily. Your other district leaders are very accessible as well. And as of tomorrow or at the latest the next day, I will be sending out information for the next training. And hopefully you will join for that one as well.
Let me do one more thing before we adjourn for the evening, and let me brag on our district membership chair, Becky Hunt. She has put all this together on her own. She has become a student of the game like no other. This district is absolutely blessed to have her. And you know, the harder she works, the more things she finds out she's interested in. And she's going to kind of transform into, I think, a different role maybe next year. But she's absolutely going to be part of the district's team. And we wouldn't be having this session or a lot of the successes that our district right now is enjoying were it not for Becky. And I want everybody on this call to know that.
Well, thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. So with that, hope to see you in 2
district nominee,
What was that? You never
district governor nominee.
No, no.
Right
We've
after,
all tried.
right after Dan. Right after Dan.
Oh, you always get that in there. Thank you, everyone. Hope you're back in 2 weeks. Bring some of your members with you.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
And thank you, Sean, for running it.
My pleasure.
Thank
Great
you, Sean.
job.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for telling us about it, Sean.
Mike, thanks for making the trip. I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get in the car and stop at Wendy's on the way home.
I understand. You are welcome to join us for any event that you want, my friend.
I appreciate that. And
Thanks,
you the
buddy.
same. Okay, we'll see
Michael.
you. Okay.
All right, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Great
you
job,
for
Becky.
contributing so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Krista.